My husband showed me one, and a very persuasive husband saying, let's start a mushroom company. On paper, impossible, right, at that time. But in my body, super green light.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Desiree Caruso, naturopathic doctor, and I'm interviewing my friend and colleague, Brandi Garden, the co-founder of Aversio Wellness and the author of Healing Your Body, Mind, and Soul. Today, we're diving into Chapter 6, Creating Your Conscious Business. Brandi, you open this chapter with Dr. Joe Dispenza's quote, and I love this quote. You say it all the time. We're all faced with great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. Can you take us back to one of those impossible moments and how you realized it was really the start of something bigger?
I do love that quote. I think I say it 10 times a day. People are going to ask me to stop saying it soon, but it's so good. Yeah, I think one of mine looked like this. A pandemic. And a spreadsheet, which I didn't do spreadsheets, but my husband showed me one, and a very persuasive husband saying, let's start a mushroom company. On paper, impossible, right, at that time. But in my body, super green light. So up until then, I think I had been treating obstacles like closed doors. And that season taught me to check for the hidden invitations, right? The impossible wasn't a warning like I had always thought. It was kind of like camouflaged destiny. And once I stopped arguing with the packaging of it and said yes to it, then the mentors started appearing and the research started lining up. And the next step kept revealing itself like runway lights at nighttime. So when I stopped seeing the obstacles and started seeing the invitations, I would say the whole path just opened up for me.
Super cool. It's just that shift in perspective. How is the world working for you instead of to you? I love that. You also write about hearing a loud, clear call to serve beyond the classroom. Yeah. What did that calling sound like for you, and how did you know that it really was time to leap?
I remember the night. I remember the night sitting in the office. I think it sounded less like a megaphone and more like, I always describe it as this like inner nudge, but like a steady inner nudge. You're done filling heads. Now it's time to help open hearts. And I loved teaching, as you know, but I think my soul just wanted a bigger classroom, right? It wanted the forest. It wanted that lab that we worked with for so long. It was so interesting, exciting for me. And I knew it was time when my body was saying yes before my mind finished making the pros and cons list that old me used to live by. So alignment arrived first, and then logic got on the next bus. So I think I remember hitting send on that email so clearly, and I write about it in the book, but I think I hit send on a life that I'd outgrown. And I stepped into work where my curiosity and my values and my daily practices actually continued to be part of my job description. And then you don't feel like a fraud anymore, right? So it wasn't logic, and it was alignment, and my body said yes before my mind caught up.
You describe the weekend when you discovered lion's mane and then you watched fantastic fungi as soul fire. I love that term. You said it felt like an arrow. You felt like you were an arrow finally aimed at its target. Or you also described it as this sense of enthusiasm, which is one of three ways that Eckhart Tolle describes awakened doing. That's one of them. Why do you think that enthusiasm is such a powerful sign that you're on the right path?
I watched that movie 3 times that night. There was a clear sign. And yeah, I love that you brought up Eckhart, because I had read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and he does describe this. Like, there's only 3 states. You're in acceptance, you're in enjoyment, or you're in enthusiasm. And as I read, I was like, ooh, I could kind of look at my life as so differently then. Like, if I get a flat tire, it's not time to have an emotional reaction. We are in acceptance. And I think in the book, he says 90% of your life is there. But it was harder for me to identify enthusiasm as I went back in time. But I was in something different. And when I read that, I'm like, that's me right now. Right? It's like this boom. So acceptance says, yes, I will show up. Enjoyment says, I kind of like it here. But enthusiasm is like, clear the runway because I'm landing a vision. And that lion's mane study, that research, and then the fantastic fungi movie, if you haven't seen it, I think it's still on Netflix. So well done. It felt like I was an arrow finally aimed at a target that I didn't even know was there before. So I would say enthusiasm collapses doubt, because because the energy itself becomes evidence for you, right? It's the universe sending you fuel with your marching orders. So enthusiasm is the soul's confirmation that you're exactly where you need to be.
Exactly. And people describe it as following the things that light you up, right?
Yeah.
When people say, follow your passion. Yeah, that's exactly what you did. Most people think that success means adding more to the to-do list, with productivity, hustle
Mhm.
culture, and all those things. But you talk about spending time in nature as medicine.
Mhm.
One could view that as perhaps subtracting because
Mhm.
it's taking up space from something that could be productive. But why do you think connection and stillness actually fuel creativity more than constant action?
I love that. I can't think of the quote, but I know exactly what you mean, and every time you said connection in that question, I'm just thinking of, like, the Wi-Fi in the forest, right?
Mm,
Wi-Fi is not the only network. Nature is the original hotspot. When I walk in the forest with Craig, we used to go with the kids, our dog Maui, who's since passed, like, she was the mushroom-sniffing dog. My to-do list stopped. I stopped yelling, and ideas stopped whispering, and stillness isn't idle, right? It's upstream. You're not doing nothing, you're downloading when you're there. So I think the best strategies arrive without the caffeine jitters. 5 minutes of trees beats 5 minutes of opening tabs anytime. When we pause and we plug back into source, which for me is in nature, that is where the true ideas are born. You're just surfing in a whole other way.
so cool. You share that moment when you flipped a supplement bottle over and you saw myceliated brown rice on the label. You described it as that hot, sinking feeling of being duped. And so many people have felt that too. Some might have seen this moment in time as a sign, to stay away from mushrooms and that they aren't for
Mhm.
you. But this moment is a sticking point for all of us on Team Aversio and our mission to change lives
Mhm.
through fungi. We've all felt like that in some way, shape, or form with supplements, with functional mushrooms. And it's a sticking point for us with everything we do, always keeping that in mind of, we don't ever want somebody to feel duped because we know that
Mhm.
feeling. Why was this a pivotal moment for you?
I mean, I can remember the feeling in my stomach sinking. It was like my stomach dropped and my standards rose all in
Mm,
one moment. That label taught me the difference between marketing and medicine. Still
mm,
teaches it to me. Every time I pick it up when I'm in a store, I still pick it up to see if they've changed it yet.
yep.
They have not. It also is what wrote our values in permanent ink, right?
Mm,
Honesty, real fruiting body extracts, education, humanity plus practices. For me, integrity is not a tagline. It's an operating system. So whether it's glass jars, compostable refill pouches, third-party testing, the clinical dosing, like, we're not anti-profit. We're just pro-trust. And I think the world could use more of that in every product. I wish there was more of those products. So I wish integrity wasn't a marketing word, but it's a promise that you prove with every product when you're a brand that cares.
mic drop. You realized most mushroom products were underdosed or even misleading. How did you translate clinical real research into real world quality? And how can consumers learn to look for that themselves?
Well, I think we were lucky because we are standing on the shoulders of giants, right? There were enough that came before us to give us a no example that we knew we could do better, and then we reverse engineered from the literature because there's
Right.
tons of it. And I think
Yeah.
there's a story that there isn't, but you and I know if we went on PubMed today, there are over 7,000 great articles about medicinal mushrooms. They talk about active compounds, they talk about extraction methods, they talk about doses used in study, and the label claims come second. So we
Yeah.
third party test the inputs before manufacturing, right? We dose to match outcomes in the studies, not just to fit a price point. And that was
Mm,
hard because that does mean we're a premium brand with a higher price point because we want because we want it to work. And I think that's why a naturopathic doctor like you can get in line and get on board. It's just, we have to keep packaging honesty to me, right? We
mm,
have to, for consumers, there's 3 quick checks. If you are looking, fruiting body extracts have to be listed, can't be myceliated grain. Standardized actives, right? Transparent dose per serving, no fairy dusting on the labels. And then independent lab results that you can actually see. For us, they're on our websites. Education dethrones hype every single time. And once you know what works, your cart gets very smart. And as we head into shopping season this holiday, I challenge you to think of that every time you put something in your cart. Education is empowerment. And when people understand what works, they can't be fooled. So do your homework, look at research, and spend your money wisely. You're voting with your dollars.
That's really great insight. You redefine abundance as time, creativity, relationships, and impact, not just revenue. And you say that the universe responds to movement. What does inspired action look like when you're building a conscious business?
Inspired action feels clean to me, right?
Uh-huh.
It respects nap time and forest time. It ships out things that you're proud to put your name on, even if it takes longer. So it says yes to collaborations that expand the mission and no to shortcuts that shrink your soul. As you know, you do so much of that with us. In practice, we launch when the product's truly ready, which means we have taken a long time to launch things because we're
Yeah.
not willing to do it any other way. And that's probably frustrating for some, but we're never going to back down from that. Teach what you learn for free. Pay suppliers fairly. Let your values drive your calendar, not your fear. So I think aligned action creates flow, where in the opposite, hustle creates friction. And I don't want to live there anymore.
What I really love about this chapter is that you encourage readers to ask if their current work reflects their values. I think it's such an important question. So, for somebody who's maybe feeling stuck or afraid to pivot, what is one low risk step that they can take this week towards more purpose driven work?
Well, it's something that I learned to do, and it came from a book. I think it was Vishen Lakhiani, but run a values audit on your day. Like, just do it on your day. Do it right now. Circle one task that you can swap for an aligned, I would call it like a micro move. So email a mentor. Block 30 minutes for research on the field that you can't stop reading about. We got busier. I stopped reading research. And that was hard. And Dr. Ludo, who was a mycologist we worked with, he brought me back to that and remembering it. And it felt good. Create one simple off-page offer. Volunteer your skill for a cause that you love. Don't redecorate your whole life. Just open one window and let the purpose air fill the room. I would say you don't have to quit everything. Just take one aligned step today and start by looking at your day. So hopefully you're keeping some kind of a calendar and just do an audit. A values audit on your day.
Love that. Okay, so what about when things get noisy? Regulations, profits, logistics. How do you keep the focus on your mission and not drift back into scarcity or comparison thinking?
I mean, we're lucky because I come back to our wall of principles, right? We have it right on the wall at HQ. And one question, is this choice humanity plus? Also, I read about being humanity. There are businesses in our world that are humanity plus, and there are businesses that are humanity minus. Hate to call anyone out, but Coca-Cola, you're not making the world a better place. And it's not because you're not creating a ton of jobs and doing all of this, but it's a product that's not making people well. And to me, humanity plus means it's good for people and it's good for the planet. So for us, every choice, is it humanity plus? If it's yes, proceed. If it's not, it's no in a tuxedo, right? Like I check the metrics that matter, customer outcomes. We're looking at quality. We're looking at our team well-being. We're looking at our waste footprint all of the time. So revenue is a vital sign, but it's not the patient. So when I measure alignment and impact, the fear dial turns down and the work gets very simple again. So my measure of success is impact and alignment, not income. And that's very, very hard for a lot of business people, the old school, I would say, to look at. But here we are, we're almost 6 years old and it can be done. It can be done.
Chapter 6 shows what it really means to build with purpose and integrity. But in Chapter 7, Fighting the War on Consciousness, you pull back the curtain on why awareness and truth are often challenged. Would you say that's where your story shifts from entrepreneurship to advocacy?
Absolutely. Oh, I love that description. Yeah. Chapter 6 builds the vessel. Chapter 7 explains the waters we're sailing, kind of, and, why some currents push back at us. So that's where I trade the quiet building for the louder boundary setting, I would say. So, yes, it's where conscious business meets conscious rebellion.
Can't wait. See you in the next chapter, everyone. Be
See you
well.
there.